Good morning. This is my fifth video of the six that I said I'll make on Operation Sindoor, and the list of the subjects is on the screen. Now, before I proceed with this video, a recap is required. For example, in my first video, I argued that how after Operation Sindoor, the war threshold level between India and Pakistan has come down to dangerously low levels. In the second video, I explained how a hot war between the two is likely to play out. In the third video, I argued that how China today is a dominant power in South Asia, and in my fourth video, I explained how China today can change the status quo of Kashmir because after 5th August 2019, China at the highest level of President Xi Jinping took the responsibility for Pakistan's security, and Pakistan's core concern is Kashmir. So what I have discussed till now is that China can change the status quo of Kashmir. It has the capability, it has the will. Will is linked to the commitment given by President Xi Jinping. What is left to be discussed is the credibility of China in the world today, because after all three things are important. For China to change the status quo, its credibility, capability and will. And credibility is what I will discuss in the video now. And the world that I am talking of, where we have to see the credibility of China, is where 80% of the population lives what is called Global South. This is the place where some of the fastest growing economies are there. Now, against this backdrop, I want to remind the viewers that there are only two relationships in the world today which have withstood the vicissitudes of global geopolitics, and China is in both the relationships. One relationship is China-Russia relationship. This is about global geopolitics, and the other one is China-Pakistan relationship, which was about real regional geopolitics before Operation Sindoor. After Operation Sindoor, I will explain later how it has been catapulted to the level of global geopolitics, because all the three great powers, which is America, China and Russia, they seem to be backing Pakistan. And I again said that Pakistan's core concern is Kashmir. So let me first explain China in global geopolitics, how its credibility is high. And China's credibility here is built on four distinct pillars. The first is the Belt and Road Initiative, where we know out of 193 countries in the world, 153 nations are on board. Now, BRI is about big projects. It's about infrastructure building, and it's about digital hardware and software cyberspace connectivity. All big projects. The second pillar is the Global Development Initiative. This was announced by President Xi Jinping at the United Nations in 2021. And this is about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17, which were started in 2015, and they have to be finished by 2030. And China is completely embedded in these development goals, which concern the human factor, things like education and poverty in the world. The third pillar of credibility of China in the world is about indivisible security, which Xi Jinping announced in 2022. And this is called Global Security Initiative, an entirely new way of security in the world, which is not about zero-sum game. It is about win-win cooperation. Here, unlike America, which has close to 786 military bases in the world, China does not need these bases. China today has close to 176 seaports in the world, and that is what provided the indivisible security. It's a subject by itself. I won't go any further details at this stage. All I can say is it's extremely successful. And the fourth pillar is what Xi Jinping announced in 2023, and it's called the Global Civilization Initiative. What this means is no export of ideology. Two great powers, China and Russia do not export their ideology. Unlike the West, unlike America, they do not talk in terms of democracy and autocracies. In fact, as far as China is concerned, as early as 1979, its top leader Deng Xiaoping had come up with this famous saying, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white so long as it catches mice. So China had made the decision that the need is no export of ideology to any country, respect for all the civilization and cultures of the nation, and hence China gives a lot of importance to people contact. And the evidence of this success of China's 4 pillars, I'll just give a recent example of that. It is only 2 days back that at Kuala Lumpur, there was a trilateral trade meeting between China, all the countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council, and the 10-member ASEAN nations. This is a very big thing because please recall, China was the country which offered first the free trade agreement to the ASEAN countries way back in 2001, and now that has been upgraded to a different level where the 4th industrial revolution technologies are being brought in by China to help the ASEAN countries. And it is because of this that recently in Singapore at the Shangri-La Dialogue, when the Malaysian Prime Minister was asked a question, he said, both for Malaysia as well as on behalf of the ASEAN nation, that ASEAN nations want peace. They do not believe in unilateralism. They want multilateralism. They do not believe in protectionist policies. At the same forum in Shangri-La Dialogue, the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was there, and he was basically saying the line of the Biden administration, emphasizing on the need for rule-based order in Indo-Pacific region. And he once again spoke about AUKUS and he spoke about Quad. You see, the problem with this whole thing is, what Pete Hegseth said is that his boss, President Trump, who when he came to power, even I believed in his plan that he will be able, he had a grand plan. But then slowly over the month, what has happened is that President Trump's credibility is all-time low. He is seen as an unreliable partner. He is seen as untrustworthy by his own allies. Case in point is, just see in West Pacific, the 3 countries, Japan, South Korea, I mean, these are the allies of America. After so many years, they had a trilateral trade meeting with China. So it was China, South Korea and Japan. Similarly, as far as the African countries are concerned, 54 nations, they are also beholden for their development and prosperity to China. At the 3rd Belt and Road Forum, which was held in 2023 in Beijing, 33 African nations attended that, and President Xi Jinping had promised $105 billion over 5 years for smart project, and it was there itself because so many nations today have joined the BRI that Xi Jinping announced that the BRI will also have a secretariat. So the point to make is, despite whatever the West says or India says, the fact of the matter remains is that China's credibility is very high amongst the global South nations. Now let's talk of the regional geopolitics, which is the subject which is what we are discussing. Now, as far as regional politics, I said is that this is another relationship which has stood the test of time, which is China and Pakistan. So over the years, we have seen what has happened is that China, without coming out openly, has been supporting Pakistan with restrictive technologies to ensure that it stays in the military field competitive with India. For example, when India announced in 1984 its ballistic missile program, we suddenly came informed in 1993 when Pakistan had the new Army Chief General Abdul Wahid Khakkar that Pakistan now had indigenous missile technology to match up with India. Of course, plenty of that came from China. Similarly, China helped Pakistan in the nuclear weapons development also. Therefore, in 1998, when India did the nuclear test, within days, General Karamat, the army chief, he also did nuclear tests for Pakistan. The whole idea was that in the case of missile, the conventional level parity was maintained. In the case of nuclear weapons, the strategic parity was maintained. So the parity has always been maintained. Now, in 2000, the then Army Chief General Musharraf, he offered the Gwadar port to China, and China accepted that offer. The whole idea was that Pakistan's geography should be used for geopolitics because the geography was very good. Now, if it has not been fully exploited, then there is a problem which I will discuss in my next video. What is the problem there? But suffice to say here is that all this was happening not in the open. In fact, on the 5th of August after that 2019, when China and Pakistan came in a very tight embrace, once again things were not in the open. So what China was trying to do is, or has been doing, is ensuring that Pakistan military remains a peer competitor of the Indian military. And finally things came out in Operation Sindoor, where we saw this happening, the world saw this happening, that Pakistan military is not anything less than the Indian military. It is a competitor. So the world's, and everything changed then. Everything changed, and that is when, because of Operation Sindoor, what was a regional geopolitics suddenly was elevated to the global geopolitics. And see what all happened. First, as I said, the three great powers. America. President Trump, in fact, he has spoken of trade, and now there is news that a trade team of Pakistan is visiting America perhaps this week. Then we know that the IMF gave a loan of 3 billion to Pakistan. Another one of 40 billion from the World Bank for Pakistan has been cleared. This could not have been possible without America's help. Then we have seen in the case of Russia, Russia has come forward and revived the Soviet era steel mill near Karachi. So they are also warming up to Pakistan. As far as China is concerned, China has not only come in complete open support of Pakistan. We saw on the water issue, they are completely in open support of Pakistan. China has also hardened its position regarding India. Two examples are enough. One is that when Operation Sindoor, before Operation Sindoor, after 22nd, after the Pahalgam massacre, in that period when the tensions were building up, China announced 9 new names in Arunachal Pradesh, which were Chinese name of 10 places in Arunachal Pradesh were announced. So a total of 80 names have been changed. Mandarin names have been given to places in Arunachal Pradesh. Now Arunachal Pradesh is India's state, which China says is South Tibet, and it belongs to China. Now the other thing what we hear is that because sometimes long time back, in fact, India had banned Chinese Huawei and TikTok from India. Now the news has come that Chinese have banned the rare earth magnets, their rare earth magnet export to India, which is critical for the auto and the car industry. In fact, there is a interview on this which is worth watching of industrialist Rajiv Bajaj. So the point to make here is very simple, that today China is not only a dominant power in South Asia, it has the credibility, the capability and the will to change the status quo of Kashmir. Now let me come to the main point. You see, first is that China is not an expansionist power, as the West in India keeps saying, and the evidence of that is the Great Wall of China. In all the dynasties except one, the emperors, they have come, built and rebuilt the Great Wall of China. China has never thought of expanding, but then China says that 2 areas that belong to it, it will reclaim, and the 2 are Taiwan and the other one is Tibet. I won't dwell on the Taiwan issue, but as far as Tibet is concerned, we know that India's state of Arunachal Pradesh, which Chinese call South Tibet, there since April 2020, there is a military standoff between India and China on the line of actual control. Now suddenly the Modi government does Operation Sindoor, and because of which, as I explained, Kashmir, which was an issue of regional geopolitics, has now been elevated to being an issue of global geopolitics with all the three great powers engaged with Pakistan and by extension to Kashmir. So, what we will see is that for China, as I said, its credibility, capability, and its will are very much there behind Kashmir. So, it has assumed a significance for China, and we see a lot of things happening in the next year and a half. Thank you so much.